Hi, welcome to part 4 of the series on painting better skies. In my hue and saturation video I talk about the importance of neutralising two complements to create a grey, and this episode is about grey. Okay, so my work is mostly known for its high saturation, but grey goes along with that as well. Sometimes it's all about grey in a painting, and this is the start of a recent painting of mine which is all about grey. Now the danger and the what not to do about grey is reach straight for the titanium white and the ivory black to create a grey. Black and white make grey, yeah? No, don't use it. Yes, they do make grey, but they will restrict you in your lively greys. Amateur painters are quite often identifiable by their lack of subtlety, and grey is all about a subtlety in hues between say a cool grey to a warm grey to a purple grey, and it's really it's an exercise in restraint and control in your colour mixing, and a sophistication of modulation of that colour. So let's get up on the easel, the palette, and we'll look at how mixing grey and depicting light within your skies is important in the mixing of grey. There's a lot of grey within the sky, but we need to see how we inject a bit of light and darkness into the sky by the modulation and the creation of your grey. Okay, here we go. Let's just explain the setup. I've stapled my colour wheel to the easel here. Incidentally, you can get this colour wheel on my website in the shop bit. It is in the shop, but it is free of charge. And there's 3 different kind of designs. This is a 40x40 linen, but on top I've just attached a little off-cut piece of Classon's linen. And I'm going to show you what not to do and also what to do, or what not to do and how to avoid doing that. So, just to explain the palette very briefly, my palette is explained on episode 2. I do keep a black down here. I'll have Mars black and ivory black. Mars black being for coverage, ivory black being for tinting a little darker sometimes, sometimes with glazing. And I have a warm grey here, and in this area here I use to just, when I'm finished on a painting session, I'll scrape up all my colour and it tends to make a grey. So I'll keep this tertiary area of the palette down here, and this stuff here is just saved grey paint, some of it's congealing. Okay, so what not to do, we'll go to titanium white, which is up here, incidentally zinc white there. There will be a whites video, it'll come next. So titanium white, just dry off the brush or get rid of some of that, and ivory black. And mixing the ivory black gradually into the titanium white will give you grey, yes. And if you're drawing, painting a grey object, let's just paint a cube in here, which is a very solid object, not like a cloud. Alex Duncan's painting from the first video complains that his clouds are concrete, so let's just imagine a concrete cube. And what you'll tell me is there'll be a highlight on the top of the cube, so we need more titanium white for that. Slightly thicker in application, and we'll put the highlight of our grey cube at the top. And there'll be a shadow which will be the same grey as before, and I'll mix in a little bit more of the ivory black to create a darker grey. and we'll drop that in as a shadow colour. One solid object, and if you like, some sky in the background coming from this colour here. And we have one floating cube. Now this is what not to do. So why is it bad to do this? Well, even if you were painting a cube on a blue background, or cyan background, this light blue background, even if you were doing that, your light would be picking up a more yellowish colour from your light source. Your shadows would be alive with a little bit of this kind of colour or this colour. There's no rules as to where you go here other than the light source from the sun would be around this area, which would cast shadows further away from these hues. Okay, but as I mixed the grey with just black and white, I'm isolated to here, and it's uninteresting. We're not making use of all these types of greys, which are desaturated colour. Now what I'll do is just beside this, I'll probably just continue my sky colour, and I can paint out another area for another cube, very roughly. Okay, so what really I should have been thinking of is to use my background colour, and it's just picking up a little bit purple there as well, and then neutralise it. So this colour on the colour wheel, it's actually King's Blue from Michael Harding. The colour that this is, well, it's actually picking up a little bit of the purple as well, so it's round about here. So we need an orange kind of colour to neutralise it, and this Indian yellow here is a yellowish orange colour. So I'm just going to show you how that neutralises it. Just take a little bit of that. And it's, Indian yellow is a little bit yellow, so we'll just add a little bit of cad orange. Okay, we now have what is really a warm grey, and we can make it a cool grey by adding more of the King's Blue. So we can drop the grey into here. Can lighten it slightly with titanium white. And in the shadows we're going to go cooler, so a little bit more of the blue, not lightening this time with titanium white because it will be darker. I've created my shadow colour, which is now cooler than the local colour, the local colour of grey that I have there. Now for the highlight, a big mistake is to then go to titanium white and highlight your colour here. That is your shadow colour. It is totally different from the hue of your highlight. So what we've got to do is go back to this grey, warm it up slightly, warm it up a lot as it would seem, and add some white to that colour. And even more white if you need. Now what's important in correct use of grey is to realise how better an experience of light and dark this is rather than that. This is dead, that's the same hue as that, is the same hue as that. It's all right here. Here we have a highlight up there, we have a shadow down here somewhere, and we can manipulate that all the time. Now, in skies, this is important because colours are changing all the time. They're moving from light and dark. Dark is lit up by light, and light shines through the dark. And all the time we have refraction and reflection of light that changes that perception of colour that we see. So, it's not only important for painted skies, it's important for everything to understand grey and use grey well, so that your greys are alive. But in this particular instance, we've got this concrete idea. Translucency is important within your skies so that you don't have concrete skies. Clouds are see-through. They are water droplets in the air. They should be translucent. Now, translucency doesn't always mean that you need to reach for your transparent paints and glaze over. That's one way of doing it. But what we can do is keep mixing the colour in between. So the fact that I created my grey with the same colour as the blue behind it, it means that I am able to relate this colour to this colour. There's less of a change. There's more subtlety. And that just means that some of the blue still shines through and is present in here. So yes, making it less concrete would be softening the edges, like we've already talked about, but also we need that translucency, which is your colour selection. Create the grey from the colours around it and you will create translucency. Sometimes professional looking painting is all about subtlety, and getting to grips with subtlety is quite often an exercise in restraint. To create a colour for light and a colour for shadow and then mix the two together appears to give you less of a contrast. The amateur artist, the inexperienced artist, is constantly looking to attack a painting with contrast. But sometimes the better option is to give less contrast and more relationship between one colour and another. Now if I take the colour of light in this little study as being the Indian yellow, the light will be described as the Indian yellow. So the highlights will all be like this. And then the darks are described with maybe the opposite of this, which is the cyan side of blue here. So I take the phthalo blue and I could describe darks. Incidentally, phthalo blue is pretty much cyan. So to pull it nearer the blue, we can just add a little bit of, this is dioxazine purple, which is across here, dioxazine purple. So we add a little bit of the dioxazine purple to get kind of closer to the blue. We're around about here now, which is good, and that's going to complement that yellow. So yellow for light, Blue for shadow, that is far too contrasty. Far too contrasty. So what we can do is lift the light colour, add it to the shadow colour, lift the shadow colour and add it to the light, and we have two colours which are much more related to each other, much subtle in their difference, and also describe translucency because of the relationship between the colours used. Okay, to summarise, you just want to liven up your greys. Use chromatic grey. Mix your complementaries, mix triads, stick to the correct colour wheel to do that, and generally just get back that subtlety within your paintings. Modulate your hues subtly so that your strong modulations of hue, your big contrasts, make a big enough statement. Keep tuned for the next video on how to use white properly. These videos are all free, but I do appreciate any donations that you make, and you can do that on scottnaismith.com/videos. I don't get many donations, but I'm very grateful for those of you who do make a donation. Thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and please subscribe to the channel. Cheers.